Well, hello, my name is Florian Foster and I'm the CEO of CAOS. And I am here today to talk to you why we built yet another identity and access management solution. And so let's start with my slides and I will give you a quick introduction about who we are and what we did and why especially we did the stuff I'm going to tell you today. So the agenda I already mentioned, so I will quickly dive into who is we, because you need to have some kind of background information of who is the we. And then why did we start the project? Because we actually had some reasons to do it, otherwise it wouldn't make any sense to do something like this. Then I will tell you what makes it special. So actually I mean Citadel by that. So we will dive into this a little, and what else can it do for you, like the classic stuff an identity system does. So that's the agenda for today. Feel free to write down any questions to me. I will answer them at the end, and I will try to time box a little so that we have enough spare time to really dive into questions you guys have. So who is we? The we actually is the company called CAOS. We founded our company in 2019 at actually the 1st April, which is the official founding date of us. And is no joke. We have 11 employees focused in the identity and access management topic, and also in the GitOps world, because we need to be able to run our software as well. So we don't just build it, we run it as well. So it's kind of the approach GitLab does there, but I will go there in a minute. We are a totally open source company. Most things we do, and I say most, not all, but most of the things we do are licensed with an Apache 2 license, so you can reuse the things we do. We're also a member of the Swiss-made Software Foundation and the CH Open, which is kind of the open source institution in Switzerland, and we sponsor the OpenID Foundation. So that's kind of the standardization body for protocols like OpenID Connect, and so we're really deep into that specific corner. So that you have some pictures of us. That's the 11 people. 2 people haven't had yet the time to get the photo shot, because it's Corona still running and kicking. So we have introduced our lovely pet there, the giraffe called Gigi, which is our mascot. So we needed to replace them. And what we're actually doing is, for one, we developed a cloud-native identity and access management system called Citadel. I'm primarily talking about that today. And we also have some kind of container runtime platform, which is optimized for a GitOps-centered approach, which we call OBOS. And they both worked in combination together. So we run our Citadel clusters with OBOS beneath, and OBOS provides the necessary abstraction like Kubernetes and all that stuff. So, but I will not delve into that too much. We are one of the only companies in Europe that serve a proper SaaS identity and access management system. And the differentiator there is it's not a managed service where you give us a call and we deploy you an instance of Citadel, but instead you can run through a self-registration GUI and create your organization, something like you see with Azure AD and also Auth0. So it's kind of proper SaaS model there. We operate our products as well for clients, so we do managed service also, so we have kind of both worlds. And we provide consulting and engineering in the identity and access management field, and also DevOps. And so we do all of this, but we are highly centered around that. So nothing like specialized projects and stuff like that. That's not the company that we're building right now. So much to the company CAOS. Then why did we actually start the project? Because some could say there are already a lot of identity and access management solutions on the market. So from SaaS-oriented approaches like Okta and Auth0 to open source projects like Keycloak and Glue and all that. So yeah, there are a lot of projects already available, but we think we solve kind of a special part in the market, and we have some nifty details which are kind of a differentiator to all the other projects. And I want to tell you a little bit about them, because that's essentially the point why we built yet another identity and access management solution. So to start, yeah, as said, we started in 2019, and we previously worked at a company which provides services to public government, and they were kind of a service provider for that sector. So they provide infrastructure as a service, they provide software as a service to public government sector, and the problems they had were especially centered around how you operate and build an identity and access management system that can cope with different workloads and different topics from the government sector. And as we did that, we really figured out what things, and I will go to that in a minute, are missing in most public available solutions today, because there are some deficiencies which needed to be addressed to make a really, really great product for that market. And at that point in 2019, it was clear to us that there was a space where somebody could build an identity and access management solution, especially built for the, I say, XaaS market, so any as a service constructs, and also service providers as well, because you want to have some kind of a platform system which really is easily to integrate within your projects. And that was kind of the origin story where it started in 2019. And so let's dive into the topic. The basic requirement of mostly any software we have today, I extra said not any, but most of the software, is you will have some kind of authentication, you will have some kind of authorization, and if you're going for a software as a service market, you will end up needing self-service functions, because you don't want to do anything for your customers, because this will hurt your business model really bad. So you really need self-service functionalities. And we think of that as the foundation for all the great projects that are in the wild. So what went wrong from our perspective, or what was missing, or what was the missing piece? So I will quickly explain those boxes, because we think these are the problem domains we experienced in the past. So we have kind of the feature part, the market, the technology, the pricing, and the regulatory part. So each of them has different problems, and I will quickly run through them. So if we talk features, most of the systems that we have seen and evaluated do not really provide a solution for long-term audit trails. And that's kind of an anti-pattern in the identity world, because you will end up with a lot of log files, and they do not really create a great foundation for doing analytics on top of them, because the structure of log files is most of the times highly volatile. So it's not a great way to bring a long-term audit trail to the party if you need to dig through all those log files and find out what really happened. So that's kind of one of the deficiencies we think is really a bummer, because in a security incident, you will need those data. And we'll come back to that topic, how we solved that, because it's kind of the big thing we did. Then self-service, as said, you have kind of two areas there. You need to provide self-service for customers, like normal people, and you need to provide self-service for your partners. And they both function a little bit different, because in the end, a customer is only able to manage its own user, and a partner is able to manage all its users, and also needs to be able to configure things like single sign-on with its existing IDPs and that stuff. So those are the special self-service things which are missing in most of the projects, but still you have some little features in some of the products, but not all of them. One thing that is missing big in the industries is delegation of access management. I will explain that in a second, but it is missing. So delegation is not that easy to achieve because you need to make sure that your data model works even when you're delegating things, and you need to make sure that your ownership is correct and all that stuff. So it's a missing link, and I will go there in a second. Then we found no identity and access management system that had kind of the vision of becoming a platform, but most of them tend to be just either a software as a service product or an IAM as a service product, or an open source product, or a product you choose and sell and purchase. So it's not kind of a platform with great integratability and great features. And so we think of it that a platform IAM is missing. So up to the market. The identity and access management market is highly dominated by the American companies. That's not a bummer itself, but it's kind of intriguing for a European company to dive into that market, because most of the countries we are located in, like especially the DACH area, has another ideology in regard to data privacy, and so we have kind of side effects there which point to the regulatory side. And just to mention a few, I mean, the SaaS market is dominated actually by Okta, Auth0, Azure AD, and all of them, Ping Identity as well, and so it's kind of a fragmented market there, but it's a big market. In the product sector, you have a lot of products. I mean, Red Hat SSO, just to mention one, which is also the subsequent open source project Keycloak. So you have kind of the approach there as well. But it's always the US company is in the lead. And I find that Europe has the capabilities and abilities to run and build such a software. So why don't we push that thing? So we think of that's kind of our mission, to enable Europe with an identity and access management system built for the cloud. Okay, so then let's dive into technology. Oftentimes those projects feel quite a little bit dated. So I don't want to say they're bad in any kind of way, but if you think, for example, of a Keycloak, it's quite hard to run and scale that thing, especially if you're diving into topics like how to operate that thing across multiple data centers or regions, because it was not built for that purpose at the point it was created initially. So it's kind of, yeah, you need to really invest a lot of figures to make that happen, or have the skills to do that. And we thought that this could be a thing that needs solving. Also, oftentimes those systems don't have great APIs. I mean, it's 2021, and I today still see soap services. I see cookie-based APIs, which it gives me the shivers, because it's just hideous to use something like that in 2021. And so oftentimes they don't provide great APIs, but that's kind of a kickoff if you're trying to integrate such a system within your project. The pricing is also where the bad things start. Most of them tend to hide security relevant features like 2FA or multi-factor authentication and passwordless and all that stuff behind a paywall. And we find this kind of an anti-pattern, because with an identity and access management system as a platform, you want to increase the security by using reproducible processes which are really made secure from the beginning, and you don't want to hurt the security of a project by just hiding 2FA behind a paywall. It's kind, from our perspective, it's kind of an anti-pattern, and we already wrote a blog about that, because we found that hideous. Also, the pay by user or session pricing is kind of a bummer, because you want to get security into your product, and if you need to pay by user, you will decide with each user whether you create the user or not. That hinders any security effort, because you will end up with things like a technical user, or where somebody shares an account with different people, and they do that even with things like 2FA enabled today. So it's not really helping a security effort. And if you're pushing for passwordless, yeah, you're gonna have a bad time if you do that. So also one thing to mention there is that most software differentiates between employees, customers, partners, and machines. But from a data model perspective, it's all the same. You have an account, the account may have roles, may have attributes, and it's just that. It's just the means of authenticating such an identity are different. So the employee may use a FIDO key, and the machine may use something like a certificate to authenticate against the identity system. But in the end, it's an identity. So we don't differentiate that because it hinders the security effort as well. So also, some not so great things. GDPR is kind of a problem when you're diving into the regulatory part. And I can tell you it's a challenge for us as well, because our great AUDI Trail hinders that effort a little, but you can redact things out. So GDPR needs to be fulfilled if you're running in Europe. Then broken privacy shield and safe harbor agreements tend to bombard all the SaaS products if they're originating from America, or even if an American company is involved at some degree. So there are a lot of uncertainties in that case. And also you need to provide a way for your customers to own their data. That's especially true if you're reliant to GDPR. You need to make sure the data is portable in some kind of way, but it's an academic discussion at that point. So these are the big things that felt wrong or missing. And I will dive into 4 of them right now to just give you a sense of what's tricky with them. But first, just to sum it up, what functions each project needs sooner or later. You will need single sign-on, you will need secure authentication, you will need identity brokering, that I will explain that in a minute. You will need identity management, access management, and great APIs. Otherwise, you can't really integrate that thing. So let's try diving into the identity brokering challenge. So the topic of identity brokering is not something new, so it's kind of an old thing. But the challenge here arises when you need to make identity brokering ready for a self-service centered world. So to quickly explain the graphic, on the left side, you have kind of the consumer ecosystems. Think of Apple, think of Google, whatever you choose, think of it there. And on the right-hand side, you have kind of the enterprise ecosystems. Think of Azure AD or Google Workforce or ADFS or whatever you have there. And our system abstracts them both away so that one identity can be chosen to use against software as a service providers. Just an example here, it can be Microsoft Office 365, it can be Digitech, a retailer in Switzerland, it could be Bexio, it could be Netflix, it could be anything. Just connect the SaaS service against Citadel, and you can broker all those identities together, and you can build an AUDI Trail on top of them. Where things get hard is the trust relation from Citadel to any identity provider like Apple ID or a company account with Azure AD needs to be controlled from a customer perspective. So if I'm a company and I'm purchasing software as a service product from you, I want to be able to buy my own, define which identity provider I would like to have as the original source for the identity broker. And that's where things get tricky, because most of the systems today do not really expose the feature of building, of creating identity provider trusts, or so-called federations, in a self-service manner. Most of the times you need to fill out the form and somebody will do the operation for you. So in kind of a ticket op style, we say, and that hinders your self-service effort. And that's one of the problems we decided to solve by providing all customers within our product the ability to choose and set up their own identity providers. So that's kind of the challenge. So self-service enable your customers to choose and set up their own identity providers. And that's kind of a two-way topic, because you have some part of it for the business part, like the companies who would like to reuse their identity providers, but also in the future or close future, you will see arise something like that also in the private customer sector, because we get government IDs in the future, we get social IDs, or we already have social IDs to some degree, and also something like self-sovereign identities will rise eventually, and you don't want to manage all the IDPs at any cost, because it will hinder your onboarding effort. So you need to make sure that the identity provider setup is kind of self-service. So that's the challenge one we try to solve. Then the challenge two is centered around delegation of roles, or any meaning of access management in that case, to other organizations. And I chose this diagram, which actually reflects the data model of Citadel. So everything kind of has an organization, and in that organization you have the users corresponding with that said organization. And if you're providing somebody with a project, like if I am Digitech, I could be on the left side, I am Digitech, I'm providing the Digitech business-to-business portal to a third party, for example, to CAOS. I am owning the application Digitech business-to-business portal. So it's on the lower left corner that an application would be the business portal. And I have defined a set of roles for that said business portal, and you see we call that project. A project is actually a bundle of applications, like the web applications and mobile apps and whatnot, which share a common access management catalog, in this case roles. And if I, as Digitech, want to delegate the role purchase administrator to the company CAOS, I can simply go there and give the company CAOS an organization grant of the role purchase administrator. So the ownership of the business-to-business application and also the ownership of the role still remains within the company Digitech, but they delegate the management of who actually has the role. They delegate that to the right-hand side, and that's what we call an organization grant. And that's actually one of the biggest things you need to solve as a software as a service product, because you always still retain the ownership of your projects, but you want that your customers can manage by their own certain roles. Not all of them, but certain roles. And that's happening by that data model. And this is not really a solved problem in many products. There are to a certain degree is solved, but if you take a Keycloak, for example, it's not actually easily feasible to build something like that, because you will end up in a pain when you choose either a realm-oriented design or a group-oriented design, and either way it will hurt you at one point, because it's not optimized for that purpose. And that's what we thought needed to be solved in a proper way, and that's actually what we did. So the delegation is a vital part of that story for as a service provider. So let's go to topic number 3, the AUDI Trail. I mentioned AUDI Trail is kind of an important thing. So we think that changes from an identity system should be some kind of auditable over a long time frame, because most of the times you will have an incident where you need to have all data like 6 months ago, or you want to have compliance reports where you see, okay, what happened in the last few months, are vital for modern IT security. And we think that an AUDI Trail should be at least 12 months or even longer, because most times you have wrap-up windows of 12 months. And so we normally provide about 13 months to customers, because they need to be able to look back what happened. And that is especially useful if you had a security breach like 6 months ago. You can basically go back and see how the data object looked at that time. So you can reproduce what roles had the user, how many times he did log in and all that stuff. You have all the information to that. And we built that up on the foundation of event sourcing, the whole system. And the second point there is the reason why we chose to solve that as well, or we dedicated resources to solve that, is because you need an efficient way of storing that set data, because otherwise you will have a bad time. It's not easy just to pump all the audit data into a database and you can restructure your things around that, because you will have a bad time running multiple data stores with the redundant data to it, and it's kind of tricky and you will gain a lot of overhead. And so we chose to event source Citadel, which is kind of let's say expensive part from an economic standpoint, but it really enables cases for audit trails in an efficient storage format. And also the challenge 4, which I think could be or is the future in the end, is you can build, or the customers need some kind of threat intelligence. You need to create data models or threat models of the old data, and you can only do that when your data is actually quite well structured. And with an event sourcing approach, you do not have that as a special problem, because you need to solve that engineering problem up front and you just consume it afterwards. And we think with threat intelligence and machine learning, you can prevent attacks on users, and you can also prevent malicious changes. Like if somebody gives somebody too high level of access rights, a machine learning model could mitigate that, because it could be kind of a different behavior from different location and all that stuff. And if you have all the historical data to it, you can build those threat models even on the edge, not in a centralized way. Like each customer with Citadel in the future will be able to do this without giving us any data. So we find that kind of a great thing to achieve in the future. And also, business tend to have would like to have historic data, so usage-wise, how many users we have, which application is most active, and all that stuff. You can easily generate all these things out of the data model we actually run. So you can easily solve that problem in the future, because you already have the data. But most times you just don't have the report yet, but that's an easy solvable problem for the future. Those are the actually 4 challenges we think are kind of a differentiator for Citadel for the market, because it really enables some specialized topics where you need either data or have specialized needs for the delegation part and the brokering part. So what influenced us on the way we're chosen to run? So I always say we have kind of those 3 companies which influence our vision. To GitLab, I would say, they pioneered to some degree the idea of, you have a product, you can run it on-prem in your data center of your choosing, but we also provide you with a cloud service, and we show to you that it runs at scale. So the eat your own dog food mentality really struck us, and that's why we actually do the same process. You can run Citadel on your own, on your clusters, wherever you like, but we also run a cloud service to manage it at scale and to see errors way more often than our customers do, because we have higher load, we have higher traffic, we have more customers, and so most of the times we see the edge cases before the customers do. So it's kind of an interesting mentality they provided us there. Then with Cockroach, they're actually pushing the thing that you can run it mostly anywhere, and you don't have a complex architecture to it. Like Cockroach, you just need to make sure you have kind of disk, and you can run the distributed database. And we thought of Citadel needs to be the same. So you need to have one binary, you need to be able to run it everywhere, and it just runs. And if you need to scale, yeah, just scale that deployment. You don't need to think of things like, oh, I need to also manage my pub subsystem, or I need to manage external components with scaling efforts and all that stuff. So we thought of keeping things clean and simple, and that it really helped us gaining some traction. And to say something to Cloudflare, they influenced our pricing model for our SaaS service, because it's kind of a flat fee pricing. But I will tell you a little bit about that, but I'm not here to talking sales to you. So we're going for the open source product Citadel. So what makes Citadel so special? Yeah, the vision for Project Citadel is actually, all the security features are not a paid add-on. So 2FA, passwordless, all that remains totally free in an Apache 2 licensed open source project. And we find that imperative for the trust and transparency approach we've chosen to go. And we want that customer can build secure and fast software as a service systems when delegating Citadel some of the work that they need to do as project. So that's kind of the thing we think about it. Then we also provide them with a way of long-term storing the AUDI Trail by natively build that into the data model. As said, we are using event sourcing and CQRS there, which makes that happen. Then we make no difference in account types. It's just an account, be the machine, a human, makes no difference. You just manage them differently, but they have all the features to it that they need. We provide a cloud-native architecture. I said it's just one binary, and you need to deploy it somewhere. You need a cockroach as database, and you need some kind of S3 storage for the assets. That's it. And then you can scale that thing easily. To optimize for day 2 operations and scalability, we even provide you an operator which runs the thing on top of Kubernetes, and which it also automates things like backup and restore tasks and schema migrations of the database and cert rotation with the MTLS client authentication between Citadel and the database. So it's easy to get running with a few commands. We have kind of a CTL there, and you can just use it with low effort. One thing that was also really vital to us is to be able to operate across multiple regions out of the box. And in combination with Cockroach, that really works well, because the database actually solves most of the problem a stateful application would have by replicating data across different data sets. And we kind of think that's a solved problem, and we leave it to Cockroach to solve that, because the application Citadel is just, you need the database and there are your states, and it really works well with that way. We provide modern APIs, I mean gRPC and REST services, so they are really modern. You can integrate with most of the frameworks we see today. I have some examples in the list down below. And it is Apache 2 open source. We think that's the best trade-off for an open source license as of today, because MIT is a little bit too fuzzy for, I would say, a mature project at that point. But that's just my personal opinion. To sum it up, what Citadel does, it enables access as service providers by reducing time to market. You don't need to build self-service and that stuff. It is portable, cloud native. It can run on any Kubernetes cluster. You have the automation part is solved. I will show you a picture of how we see the world there. Security is already built in. Threat analytics and breach assessment with a time travel feature, we call it, is already in there. We just don't expose it in the graphical user interface yet. And it is a proper open source project because we really want to build on trust and transparency. I found the talk right before my talk interesting because it has really good inputs to us. And I guess I will come to that at some point, because the community building part is actually the challenge for us right now. So to sum it up, from the architecture and technology point, It's mostly written in Go, so think of all server-side parts, and the login GUIs and all that stuff which is security relevant is built in Golang. The console, like the management UI, where the user can manage its profile and the administrator can manage the instance and all that stuff, is built in Angular. So we use our own APIs there, so it's eat your own dog food mentality already. We use CockroachDB as a Postgres-oriented storage layer for all the business data, and Minio to store assets like pictures and some customized logos and all that stuff. It's easy scalable from a single node to multi-data center, multi-cloud deployments. Still, with multi-cloud deployments, there is the challenge of networking, which needs to be solved. We can give you a lot of good insights there because we're actually doing a lot of the testing in regard to multi-cloud capabilities, and we also run our instance across multiple clouds, and so we can give you great insights there. Then it's an API first design, so no feature is not in the API, so everything is visible on the API. It runs on any CNCF compliant Kubernetes. We have just one special thing you need to be aware of. We use gRPC and gRPC Web, so your ingress controller needs to reflect that, but that's no rocket science today. It's a low footprint. It runs with, it starts running with 100 megabytes of memory easily. You can give it more, and you should give it more. It will perform better, but it runs with 100 megabyte easily, and it's event sourced for unlimited records and analytics purpose. We have also a doc page where we explain the architecture a little bit more, but that's it for now. So, and no presentation is complete without the Venn diagram, I heard once. So I will give you a Venn diagram. Let's start in the lower corner, lower middle. Citadel is an open source project. So we build trust and transparency with proven and open standards, and all security relevant features are already included. But we also need to make money at some point, and that's why we have kind of the both topics up on the upper side. So Citadel is also a product. You can use it with support from us. And you can run it in the data center you chose. You can run the open source version, or you can run the product version with support from us. We even run the product version for you if you don't want to run it. So it's a proper product at that point. And to prove that it is able and scalable, we run the service, the software as a service part of it, which is called Citadel CH, which is the SaaS offering from us. And I think Citadel is right there in the middle in the three overlapping parts or rings, because it checks all those boxes. And you can really, really excel with the open source version already, because we're committed to that. And we're, if you check our GitHub repos, it's quite active, and we have releases really, really often, because we think the velocity there should be high, and you can really build up on the foundation of a product which is also an open source project and SaaS source. So it's kind of the mentality we have for that. What else can Citadel do for you? Yeah, it's still an identity and access management system. So we have seen that slide, and actually this really wraps up what an identity and access management system needs to do. So it does single sign-on, it does secure authentication, we support even passwordless and that stuff. It supports identity brokering for customers and partners, makes no difference. We support identity management, so a company can manage its identities within Citadel. It can also manage it by hand or by running through our API. You can do access management in a role-based fashion right now, and you can really easily integrate it with its APIs. And so the key features right now are about that. So we have authentication, access management, identity management, IAM administration. So we have policies like password policy, or which kind of authenticator you are able to use, so you can prevent your users from using username and password and that stuff. We have a lot of going in the interoperability sector. We support APAC tokens, JOT access tokens, ID tokens, all that stuff is built in. Soon, we also support outgoing webhooks to trigger your application if something changes within Citadel, and that's easy achievable. We have all the events already, so we can trigger an external system with that side event easily. And we have some extensions. And the extension part is more an enterprise-oriented area where we provide some legacy protocols to customers. And they are actually not part of the open source project because we need some kind of enabler for business customers. But sometimes we chose to ship them downwards to the open source version if we see enough traction for a certain feature. So I've outlined some of them there, but you see it's mostly legacy protocols like LDAP, ADDS, and Kerberos and all that stuff. And things like, hey, I can export all the events from Citadel and pump them in any system for analytics. So these are kind of enterprise extensions right now. Oh. How we think Citadel should be used. We have kind of on the lower level, Citadel is a platform in our world. So you can integrate it with your API gateway, with your identity-aware proxy or web application file. We often use Ambassador or NoAuth proxies there. And then you can integrate Citadel with your HR processes. So we don't build any business workflows into Citadel because Citadel is not a workflow machine. It's actually just an identity and access management platform. So the HR processes need to be solved in the HR domain, and that gives proper separation of concern, and nobody will have the pain of upgrading Citadel at a certain point in time because they build custom code. I often see with ClearCloak that people build own Java modules, and that hurts the upgradability of the system overall. So we prevent that by just providing great APIs. You can even integrate with IT service management processes. So think of, I want to have 2 people signing off that somebody has access rights. Yeah, go with your identity, with your IT service management tool. For example, ServiceNow or whatever you have. If you need analytics, yeah, you can pump the data in Splunk, Elasticsearch, whatever you like. So Citadel at that point is a proper platform, and everything I talk there, so APIs, SDKs, is open source. The add-ons is enterprise extension. So if you want to go check out Citadel, we have a GitHub repository, we have a .NET library, friendly provided from a company we're working with, Smartif. I need to, so honorable mention from us, because they really did a great thing by providing a Citadel client, which abstracts the API and also the authentication. So you can just plug and play it. We have a Dart library, a Go library, naturally, and even an Elixir client from a company called Josh Martin. They built a contact tracing solution, and they built it on top of Citadel, and they are using the Elixir, and they provided us the library, and we will take the library into our GitHub domain in not far future. Also, we have some documentations. Feel free to ask discussions or start discussions on our GitHub page, because we're really building a community right now, but we're really early to that. So the product is there, and now we're shaping the future of a great open source product. And we simply said we want to become the next GitLab in regard to identity and access management and not in source control systems. So that was it. I guess I'm proper in time. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Florian, very much for the presentation. It's nice to see such a solution for a critical and important system, and that is even open source and auditable. That would be very nice also for Siemens. I think we could learn a lot from that.
Yeah, go ahead, just check our GitHub repo. Our build processes are open. We have all we just do npm builds there, and we do the Go builds there. It's a Docker file, and you can use it, you can run it.
Cool. Yeah, let's get to the questions. And we got one from Roger. Do you get a lot of contributions on the open source project Citadel? How do you engage with the open source community?
We want to have a lot of contributions, but right now we're in the beginnings, and so it would be absolutely lovely to have more people engaging with us directly. And we're, as of speaking here, we are working on providing a contribution guide, because we have seen we need to enable potential people that they can contribute by explaining how things run around here. And so, no, we don't get a lot of contributions yet, but we have some from colleagues and partner companies which are also committed to bring forward the open source story. So, for example, the .NET library was built from another company for us in .NET and is also open source. And so it's kind of, we're trying to grow an ecosystem.
Yeah, that's cool. And when the community grows around it, right? That's the goal at the end. Next question is, does Citadel support auth, code flow with PKCE and rotating refresh tokens?
Actually, that's the default, yeah.
Very nice.
We built a wizard process for people who want to integrate their application, and the wizard for most application or for the front ends normally falls back to PKCE, so PKCE, so PKCE, a standard process. And the refresh tokens, I'm not sure if we shipped it already or if we ship it in today or tomorrow. So yeah, we provide refresh codes or refresh tokens in a rotating fashion, so they are used once. So each time you use it, you get a new one.
Cool. Another question from Roger. Did you give Exascale a try?
Not yet. In the early days, we committed to Google in the Europe West 6 region. It's a kind of Zurich area where we actually run 3 data centers. And we also run with a company called CloudScale. It's a smaller company in Switzerland. They run 2 data centers and they provide beautiful APIs. So we can automatically create a Citadel instance with either Google, CloudScale, or an on-prem setup with SSH access in about 18 minutes with Orbos. And that's by running, we use a CentOS image, we install Kubernetes, and we pump all the platform tools on top, like Loki, Grafana, and all that stuff. And yeah, then Citadel runs. But right now, we did not yet get the time to test Exascale, but actually they are on my roadmap to see whether it's an interesting player to enable customers from us to run Citadel with Exascale by automating it into our tool suite.
Cool. We got another non-technical question, I guess. Usually when using a software, I guess, SSO solution, the customer product has to hand off the user to the SSO system that manages the front-end customer interaction login form. I saw that Citadel has API support, but is it full? Can I create login screen form and just use the API to authenticate a user against your API?
Actually, that's one thing that's not yet there, because the approach we have chosen is to provide a hosted login form with some degree of white labeling, or today I need to say private labeling, like logos, texts, colors, and also fonts. As of today, that's the feasible part. And in the future, we will expose the authentication API as well. But we have chosen a security-oriented start by providing a secure login site, because we see a lot of unsecure login sites in the internet, like HTTP headers missing, CSPs missing, external JavaScript dependencies, and all that stuff. And we wanted to mitigate that at the beginning. But yeah, you will be able in the future. It's just a question of demand. So we had not yet have enough demand for that feature.
Okay, so it's still a process, and the product is still developing.
Yeah, definitely.
And we had another question coming in. On a purely technical level, where do you see the key differentiator between something like Hydra or Citadel and Citadel, Ori, Hydra, and Citadel?
Yeah, Ori, it's an interesting question. So Ori took a different route. They are kind of a polyglot design where they really separated their components for different functionalities. So if you need to run Ori, you need to deploy all of them in the correct manner, and they chose to do that like that. And I find the overlapping area of Citadel and Ori is kind of, we both do OpenID Connect, we both do OAuth and that stuff and user authentication, but Citadel is more kind of a all-in-one binary approach where you have the GUIs and all that stuff already made for you, and you just run that binary. And with Ori, you have kind of more flexibility in regard to building your own login GUIs and that stuff. So we provide a great audit trail. They provide the better flexibility in regard to customization. So that's kind of the thing. And one thing we are also took a different route is with the open source project of Ori, it's a single tenant solution. So multi-tenancy is not built in there because that's part of the commercial offering. We're in talks with Ori as well, so we know these guys, so I know the differences a little. And we took the route of building multi-tenancy directly into Citadel. So that's kind of the differences we have.
Okay, so it's kind of a balance, right? What depends on your use case.
Yeah.
And maybe if I can ask, how many customers do you already have? And what kind of?
So it depends on what we're seeing. So for the SaaS offering, we have around about 115, 120 active organizations who are running their software projects on top. Most of them, like 20% of them, are early adopters from us, which we are closely engaging to really shape the product future at that point. And we have about 3 to 5 enterprise customers who run Citadel in a private data center, and we support them in different ways. Either we run it or they run it on their own and we provide support. So we're quite early, I must tell, but until yet it really works well. We have no major incidents right now, so it's fine.
Cool. Seems like an interesting project. Okay, that's it for this talk. And thank you very much, Florian.
Thank you for having me.